Alright, stocks by the numbers, welcome back, and we're doing a quick update here on FuboTV Incorporated, ticker symbol FUBO, listed here on the New York, and obviously I'm sure you saw that earnings, for the most part overall, kind of mixed, but in my opinion, I feel it still leans more towards positive than negative, but technically, because of how vulnerable we can say FUBO stock has been, any slight negative, this is what I talk about when I mention any slight negative, any reason Wall Street can have to bring a stock down, they'll usually act on it. And you can see FUBO, we were climbing up even after hours yesterday. We did a quick update. The stock was up here above 190 and change, broke up above this resistance trend line. And then we can see that earnings come out, and we have a slight beat on the EPS side. Revenue looking a little light here. Certain things like the advertising revenue actually went down, surprisingly enough. But even though people are trying to cite that as kind of a quote-unquote huge negative, we have to remember as well that we just did updates. FUBO entered into partnerships with, who was it, Roku, Tenya, and the list just keeps growing and growing. So almost similar to what we're seeing with something like SoundHound, right? It's like anything can happen from quarter to quarter in regards to the numbers, but we're seeing the bigger, broader picture that more people are tapping them and collabing with them, and chances are it's just going to lead to further growth, further revenue streams coming in, right? So that's why FUBO right now, again, when I personally look at a stock, I look at it more for the longer term, unless of course we're specifically talking about a short-term trade or an option flip or something like that. But right here, FUBO, technically you can see this is the symmetrical triangle that we kind of drew out a couple of months ago. This was the bottom here, mid-August, and then you recall we spiked up to above 2. That was on the initial ruling, again, that went in FUBO's favor against Disney, Fox, and third name, who was that? Warner Brothers. So that was the kind of bottom and the massive top here that we got. And then you can see we kind of channeled down and just kind of started bouncing around. And even though today's drop technically is bad and nobody wanted to see it, you can see that if we pull back right here to this trend line, we were looking at about 149, 150. Low of the day, 150. So the stock pulled back basically right to this support trend line and then bounced and closed a couple of cents higher. So we can potentially have a situation where the stock would be able to hold this support trend line, and we kind of probably just ride the bottom of this trend line and just bounce off support, potentially even going into next quarter. But it looks like the apex is going to hit a little bit sooner. It looks like we're talking about right here, which looks like roughly about 4 or 5 weeks from today, within the next 4 or 5 weeks. So we can potentially have a break up or a breakdown, because overall, again, in the numbers, I said, in my opinion, FUBO undervalued. I believe we did this yesterday. And in the numbers, I personally put fair value of the business around $1 billion. And even before the drop, the market cap was like 570 million, right? So this is why we were talking about, realistically, if the stock ran on its own back up to 2.5, 270, 290, it actually would be justified, and it would bring the stock back up to fair value. Because I know everyone's focusing on this red right now. However, again, since we've been covering the stock here on this channel, not only did it almost go up to $4 on its own merits before this lawsuit took place, but also this is the first time in a while that we're coming in light. And also, I always mention about the brand name companies and the stability and the consistency of earnings. And if we look at larger name companies, like even the big techs, like your Googles, your Microsofts, you'll notice that if they randomly surprise and they miss earnings, you'll notice that, if it's a revenue miss, it'll be like 0.7%, right? 1%, 1.1%. So it's usually like a slight miss, and probably by the next quarter, they're able to get back on track and beat earnings, and, it was just a slight stutter step. But in my opinion, based on the numbers we've been seeing, FUBO has been growing significantly well, not only quarter over quarter, but year over year as well. The losses are getting more and more narrow for the most part across the board. The revenue is up consistently, even though they've missed here slightly. I believe this time last year, they were at like 320 million in revenue. Now we're at, 370. Moving forward, we're looking for jumping back up to that 400 million plus mark for next quarter. So, we've spoken about the subscriber growth essentially growing, 10, 12, 20% year over year. So we kind of know, quote unquote, what's on the horizon down the road for FUBO. But again, right now, technically a little bit of a mixed report. And basically, since this whole Disney Warner Brothers joint venture came out, they've kind of been suppressing FUBO. And it's unfortunate because, again, before the news came out, the company was rocking and rolling right here. Again, look at this. August of last year, stock ran up to the 380s. Boom, hits a new high, comes back down. Earnings come out, boom, another nice healthy beat. Stock runs back up again to the 380s, starts to pull down here. This was the big wedge that we looked at. Of course, again, I deleted my cookies, so I lost all my trend lines. But this was the big wedge we spoke about. And again, the whole time we're beating, but we had to keep the stock down because supposedly Wall Street kind of made the assumption that because of the size of the companies mentioned, Disney, Fox, Warner Brothers, they felt that if the joint venture Venue Sports, I believe, did get approved, then it would be serious competition for FUBO. And they would almost see an immediate drop in subscribers and hours watched, all those metrics. So that's why when the initial ruling came out, everyone got pretty pumped and it immediately spiked up to 2. Again, that was after another earnings beat. And now everyone was just kind of hanging out, waiting to see if they can do it again. And that's why I was looking at this trend line saying we can get to 230 if we beat again. And of course, the company comes out with a little bit of a mixed report. But let's get into some of the news here. Let's find out what's going on. So Wedbush cuts price target from $5 to $3, keeps outperform rating. We speak about the analysts jumping on the current news and the current trends, right? Perfect example is what just happened with SMCI. There was the news of, and I'm sorry, the institution, the name of the institution escapes me, but there was the analyst, right? And they came out and they had like a $60 price target on SMCI. Then the news hit of Ernst & Young auditor resigning, and then what they say? Oh, we're putting our rating on hold. We're putting our price target on hold. So that's why they feed off of recent trends, recent news, and that's why when a company reports earnings, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, you'll see, 2, 3, 4 analysts come out and say, oh, I'm keeping my price target, I'm up at my price target, I'm lowering the price target. So Wedbush, I mean, technically this is a slight negative. Also, at the same time, though, they still have an outperform rating, and the price target's roughly 100% higher than current stock price. So Wedbush, technically, still bullish. FUBO, confident in claims against Disney. Yes, we know this. FUBO Q3 earnings subscribers grow 9% to 1.61 million, narrows EPS loss, raises annual outlook. So technically, this is what you want to hear. So unfortunately, again, all of these numbers across the board may have not done exactly what Wall Street anticipated. So in the immediate short term, they're causing the stock to take a hit. And again, I feel it's just because of how vulnerable they are. Because if this was a more up-and-coming trending stock, I don't necessarily want to cite something like a Rocket Lab because I don't think they're there yet. Maybe, I mean, maybe, I don't know. But again, if one of these more trending friendly stocks, if they came out with a mixed report, but at the same time increased guidance and forecasted better growth next year, chances are the stock might run up as opposed to dropping 10, 12% today like FUBO did. Right? So, again, there are a lot of catalysts that cause a stock to pop up or drop down. But again, this is one that I mentioned here at a couple of dollars a share. And I said, in my opinion, you're probably better off just buying the shares, especially down here at these prices, as opposed to really playing the options. Because even if the stock spiked up to $2 and you had $2 calls, believe it or not, you may have seen the same or in some cases worse returns. As opposed to if you just bought shares at 150 and boom, it went up to 2, you're up 33% on the shares, right? You understand what I'm saying? So you eliminate that deadline and that expiration date, and over time, if the company does really begin to grow and become a powerhouse in the space, guess what? You have a position and it's at an extremely low price. So if the stock grows and all of a sudden it's $10, $12 a share, remember, on a good news announcement, it can move a point and a half, which would on that day immediately double your principal investment again. You understand what I'm saying? That's why, in my opinion, I was very pumped about stocks like FUBO, SoundHound. Unfortunately, STEM didn't work out, but it was in that category as well. Rolls-Royce, another perfect example. Anyone who owns that stock now at like under $2, I mean, come on, you're sitting pretty, you're going for a heck of a ride moving forward, in my opinion. But okay, initially traded higher, then we saw obviously markets opened, we started to drop. Sales of the sports first live TV streaming platform grew 20.1% year over year to 386.21 million. All right, so we're getting some mixed revenue numbers here, but again, we'll get to a few of the metrics that declined, which I think is why they brought the stock down. So regardless of what exact revenue was, it really seems like it's being glossed over regardless. Adjusted EPS losses of 8 cents beat the estimate of 18 cents. Company's adjusted EBITDA margin loss stood at minus 7.1% versus minus 19.1% this time last year. This is what we spoke about also. All of these margins slowly getting better and better. Now they're all kind of slightly negative, which means what? If they stay the course and business remains the same, we will soon be flat and then slightly positive, which in my opinion will cause an absolute value explosion. North America streaming, this is the bread and butter. This is where like 90% of the revenue comes from. Revenue grew 21% year over year to 377 million, as paid subscribers grew 9% year over year to 1.61 million. Average revenue per user rose 2.5% year over year to $85.64 per person, per user, whatever. But that's interesting as well, because I wanted to do an update on Roku, and I'm sorry I'm coming to you guys late. My schedule's been ass backwards lately, but at least I'm honest about it. But Roku was interesting because I believe they beat earnings again, and the revenue per user here didn't increase, or I don't remember if it remained flat or if it went down slightly, but either which way, that was supposedly kind of like the highlighted headline as to the reasoning why Roku pulled back, you understand? So seeing something like the average revenue per user rising on something like FUBO, with subscribers still growing, of course, I mean, that's technically good news. So now we have more subscribers and they're spending more money, right? So this is why, again, in my opinion, you could say maybe it's a little mixed here with this report, but overall, we're talking about the long-term growth. We're talking about FUBO shares as an investment. In my opinion, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of things I like. That's just me personally. Rest of the world segment, revenue was 8.9 million, a 6% year-over-year jump, with a paid subscriber decline of 8.1% year-over-year. Interesting. To 378,000. Average revenue per user grew by 7.5% year over year to about $7.50 each. So, again, see what I mean? Kind of mixed, right? The revenue was up, but paid subscribers were down, but revenue per user was up. That's what I mean. You have some good, you have some bad. And unfortunately, again, I feel just because of how vulnerable FUBO stock is dealing with these litigations with a powerhouse conglomerate like Disney and others, that's why I feel like even with this mixed report, and again, they increase guidance moving forward. We'll get to that in a second here, down here. But also, I just think that, again, because of everything that's going on, seeing one or two slight negatives like that, oh, stock's down, not up. You understand? That's how I personally feel they're interpreting this report. FuboTV held 152.3 million in cash. Beautiful. CEO, quote, "We continue to prioritize the delivery of a high-quality, innovative, and frictionless experience for our users that includes personalization across content and price. This is what streaming should be, and it's what compelled us to file our antitrust lawsuit against Disney, Fox, and Warner Brothers Discovery. So we spoke about that in a previous update as well. And again, I'm not trying to attack anyone, but someone mentioned in the comments section that, because I think I used the word innovative, because I thought it was innovative that, they're making all of these customized plans so you can specifically pick only the content you want to see, and then that's only what you pay for. And yeah, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe any other service is really doing something like that. So you guys can let me know that in the comment section. Perhaps I wasn't aware that, this is a thing now. But that customization, whether other people are doing it or not, so again, whether it's innovative for FUBO or not, maybe I gave them too much praise, perhaps, but we know that customization can only help, right? It can't really hurt. Because if there's people out there who just, wanted to pay full price and they want all the content, they're always going to be there. But if there's other people who, I just want baseball, or we mentioned, again, they're working now with BKFC, bare knuckle fighting, right? So that's what I mean. Someone like me right now, that's all I've really been into is kind of MMA recently. So if I signed up for FUBO tomorrow, I would probably, specifically see like, oh, could I just get, like combat sports and just like the fighting, as opposed to, hockey games and stuff that I might not watch. So that's why the specific, unique individual will be more inclined to potentially become a FUBO subscriber because of the customization. That's the way I'm looking at it. Maybe I'm a little biased because, I've been bullish on it for quite a while, but you guys can let me know in the comments what you think about that. But outlook moving forward, look at this. FUBO expects fourth quarter revenue of 434 to 455 million versus estimates of 376.77 million. So if this is kind of the consensus estimate across Wall Street here, 370, 380 million and change, the company's looking for 434 to 455 million. That is a massive bump above what analysts are expecting currently. So this is why I said, again, a little bit of a rocky quarter, the revenue, again, I know I'm getting some mixed numbers here, but regardless, even if it was a beat, but we saw, again, a couple of metrics declining, technically year over year, right here, rest of the world, even though that's less than 10% of their revenue. But you understand my point. We had a couple of negatives, so even if we want to bring it down now in the immediate short term, moving forward, we can't really completely decimate the value of the stock. Because they're already kind of telling us that, hey, listen, we're going to see a massive surge in revenue next quarter. We're up in guidance. And oh, yeah, for full year, by the way, I think we're going to do even a little bit better than we previously anticipated. So technically, moving forward, those are all great things. And people always like to make the argument, well, we're valuing the stocks based off future growth and revenue potential, right? So in the moment, it's bad. But in the future, it's going to get even better and better than what we even saw, not only this quarter, but this year as well. So that's why, again, I feel like that justifies the reason why it pulled back right to that support trend line. And now it may just kind of hang out around that trend line. Maybe it'll flash, break it down, and then, pop right back up to reclaim it. And it could bounce around here between 150 and 140 to like 160 moving forward. But in my opinion, unless markets really pull back, I don't see a reason to crash FUBO stock back down to like 120, 105, right? Because we're basically being told that next quarter could be a grand slam home run. So that's why, again, in my opinion, I definitely still see faith in FUBO and all the main metrics, subscriber growth, average revenue per user, like we were talking about, all of that is on the up and up. So, it should be very short-lived, this drop. But excellent beefed up guidance there moving forward. Fiscal 24 revenue of 1.613 billion to 1.635 billion. Prior guidance was 1.603 to 1.625. So they upped that by 0.01. So what's that? 10 million. Roughly 10 million on the top and bottom end of that range for the year, versus consensus of 1.62 billion. All right, so yeah, that's technically less than mid-range now with the increased guidance. So they have a pretty decent chance to beat this fiscal year revenue number. So we'll see. Again, fourth quarter to close out the year. that's coming next quarter, roughly 3 months from today. FUBO stock plunged 45% year-to-date as it battled intense competition. Yeah. Okay. It wasn't intense competition, right? There is no competition at the moment because they tried to team up and take on FUBO head-on, and they got denied. So as of right now, there is no competition, and it definitely wasn't intense. Because again, just like I said, when I speculated, when we first heard the news, I said, now you have 3 big companies who probably all want to make good profits from this venture. And that's why I was speculating. Well, now 3 people have to get paid on the subscribers, right? When they pay the monthly fee. So because there's 3 mouths to feed as opposed to just one, is the price per month going to be higher than FUBO, right? That's what I was thinking. So that's why, again, it battled intense competition. It's unfortunate because, again, stock plunged 45% year to date. If this news didn't come out, you and I both know stock would easily be sitting between $3 and $4 because that's where it went before the news hit. So it really is a low down dirty shame that this stock is down almost 50% year to date because of this news when the business, the company itself, was rocking and rolling and growing very nicely. It really is a shame. Let's see what else we got. See, top's revenue estimates. So yeah, at the bottom there, it's showing a revenue miss. This articles are saying they beat on revenue. But again, regardless, I think that any slight declines and negatives that were reported, that's kind of what Wall Street is focusing on. Again, either way, look, a year ago revenue sub 321. Now we're reporting 370, 380 million consistently pretty much for the most part. So that's what I mean. The growth cannot be denied. Stocks immediate price movement. Yeah. Adjusted now, revenue increases. Yeah, see these numbers are all different, but this says 311.8 million a year ago. But either way, again, low 300 million range. Now we're at the high 300 million range. Q4, and this is showing different numbers here for guidance as well. Q4 company expects revenue of 426 to 446 million. The other one said what? 435 to 455. Analysts here expect 447 point. Really? Huh. All right. Well, I guess only time will tell. For 2024, FUBO now expects revenue of 158 to 16 billion. Yeah, so all of the numbers here in this article are like 20 million less, 10, 20 million less than the last article. But apparently here, according to Capital IQ, they were looking for 1.62 billion. So even though we just raised our guidance a little bit for the year, technically we may still be below what a few people are looking for. So, okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Report strong results. Delivered robust financial results for the third quarter. Continued revenue growth. Improved profitability metrics. What did we speak about last time? Right? We mentioned that a lot of these fundamentals are slowly getting closer and closer to zero. And once a loss that has been kind of hanging around for years finally grows and gets to flat, that's a big deal. Because not only, of course, if it goes positive, do I think the stock is going to absolutely explode, but it shows how resilient the business is and how potentially how profitable and influential the product or the service that the company providing is, right? So again, we saw a similar breakup with Palantir. That's the one that I always think of when we go from negative to positive, because that company, we were tracking it. Remember, long-term descending wedge, the value even back at $7, $8, I said, in my opinion, could be viewed as overvalued, but the earnings for the most part were beating them more times than not. But then what happened? The stock prematurely broke up and out because the company went net income positive for the quarter. So it completely flipped the script, right? And that's why I like FUBO as well. Because if you want to tell me from quarter to quarter, oh yeah, this was up, this was down, it's kind of yeah, okay, whatever. Overall, I see growth, and more importantly, all of these things, the EBITDA losses, they're slowly inching up to flatness and potential positivity, which I think would, again, flip the script, so to speak, and kind of change everyone's outlook on FUBO. Because now they'll say, oh, wow, they're still growing. Wow, now they're profitable. This margin's positive now. It used to be minus 19%, right? So the whole story will change if that happens. Net loss, $54.7 million, an improvement of $29.8 million compared to Q3. That's what I mean. These losses are in check right now. Adjusted EBITDA loss, $27.6 million, a $33.8 million improvement year over year. So we used to lose 50, 60, 70 million. Now we're losing less than 30. Subscribers growing. Revenue per user growing. Free cash flow, minus 1.1 million, an improvement of 31.3 million year over year. Which means if over the next quarter or two now we're going to break up into the 400 million revenue range again, then we may see certain things, certain metrics like free cash flow now flip positive, 500,000, 1 million. That's what I mean. In my opinion, I really think that would be the turning point. EPS loss, again, 17 cents. This time last year, 29 cents a share. Yep, North America growing. Company also reported strong performance in its advertising segment. North America revenue, ad revenue, reaching almost 27 million. Additionally, FUBO introduced several new product features, including upsell capabilities through its free tier and enhanced merchandising capabilities. FuboTV has been actively pursuing strategic initiatives to enhance its market position. Notably, the company filed antitrust lawsuit, to block the launch of their streaming joint venture. FuboTV also expanded its distribution partnerships, including a new multi-year partnership with The Athletic. Yes, I forgot about that as well. We got The Athletic, we got Tenya now, we just heard about, we got Roku now we're signing up with. I mean, this is what you want to see. Which again is why I'll drive my point home. So you have to deal with the short-term negativity and volatility in order to receive the long-term growth. And I'm telling you right now, people who have a lot of money on hand or people who have consistent income, they don't care that FUBO hasn't exploded yet. It's only, unfortunately, again, please, try not to take this personal, even though it is a shot, but it's only the smaller traders who need the money, who are immediately looking for those returns. Those are the only people that are really upset with FUBO. Because I'm telling you right now, those people who are sitting here with a couple of 100,000, a couple of million in an account, people who have an extra couple of $100 every week or every month to put into the market, those people see this growth consistently from FUBO, but the stock hasn't moved. And what do we do in that situation? In my opinion, we accumulate shares, we build a position. Again, people may have disagreed with me on something like SoundHound. Perfect example. Stock was down 180, 220, 240. Now it's up. It's been sitting above 4 since we got that NVIDIA news, right? You understand what I'm saying? So anyone who got in at sub 2 is now consistently up a double with future compounded growth on their principal. I mean, sky's the limit. And anyone else who's late and didn't accumulate, right, and got in after it's trending, now you paid a little bit more, now the stock quieted down, now you gotta hang out for a little bit, right? But those initial people, they're already set, they're already sitting pretty, and may even average up, depending, right? Let's see, management. Express confidence in the company's path to profitability. Yep, I agree. They highlighted the company's focus on delivering a high-quality, innovative, and frictionless experience for users, as well as the positive impact of strategic investments in product and technology. Yes, guidance. Again, we're seeing different numbers, but they increase guidance for next quarter and next year. Subscriber growth is projected to reach between 1.665 million and 1.705 million for both Q4 and for the year. For the rest of the world, revenue expected between 7.9 million and 8.9 million. We know they charge much less outside of the US, which again is fine. Between 33 and 35 million for the year. So yeah, that's what? 32, 35 divided by 4 quarters. Yeah, it's like 8 million and change a quarter. I mean, listen, it seems like this may be something that, might cater to and appeal more to people here in North America, as opposed to, someone in the Middle East or someone in Europe. But also at the same time, we know that the sports market is continuously growing, and that's why I personally was pretty pumped about the deal they did with BKFC, because I feel the combat sports is more worldwide, right? Something like football, as we call it, American football, is just that. It's American football. The rest of the world really plays soccer, or football, if you will. But again, at the same time, if we randomly showed up in South America and we were like, oh yeah, this is football, this is how we play football, they'd probably be like, I don't really get it, I don't really like it, we're just going to keep playing soccer. So, it is more of a North American thing, because again, they're now showcasing what was it, the Colorado Avalanche, right? A couple of hockey games, baseball games, and whatnot. But the BKFC is a very good thing because it's worldwide. It's new, it's growing, similar to the UFC. It's worldwide, it's consistently growing. And again, it might be wishful thinking, but just imagine if FUBO partners with the UFC. Just think about that. I think the ESPN deal is actually coming to a close soon. However, I know everyone in the sports world views ESPN as kind of like the pinnacle of media in the space. So, I don't know, they might renew the contract. But again, of course, I'm just speculating and that's wishful thinking. But I'm trying to show you that FUBO is kind of trying to appeal with BKFC to the rest of the world a little bit more. And also, is it going to happen? Who knows? Probably not, maybe not, who knows. But again, it is possible that FUBO randomly gets tapped by the UFC or, again, someone major like that. But I feel like all of the other sports, like the MLB, NFL, like they're all kind of intertwined with the legacy media, if you will. But, just throwing it out there. But yeah, overall revenue looking good, subscribers still growing. I think that's the main thing, right? You want to see the subscribers still growing, because once you start to see subscriber growth plateauing or potentially reversing and declining a little bit, then you can say, okay, for the current cycle, this may kind of be as good as it gets, right? So we're just looking to maintain this business now moving forward, and probably, it might take 3, 4, 5 quarters to implement a new marketing scheme, and then that'll drive in a new wave of subs, right? So, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But right now, subscribers keep growing. People keep signing up. And that's why, again, consistently getting tapped by all these other companies, being on all these different platforms now, the advertising revenue increasing. I just feel like FUBO is just going to get more and more attention. That's really what it comes down to. And again, we spoke about this 10-year FuboTV, strike multi-year deal, NBA, NHL games. So they got their hands in a lot of pies now. Roku, let me see this actually real quick. Do they mention the... No, they don't. But yeah, I believe the average revenue per user metric was flat or down. And it seemed to me that's why they brought something like Roku down after earnings. So again, technically, FUBO mixed result here, but subscribers up, revenue per user up. And that's pretty much it. And again, in the technicals, like I said, if we break, we come back down to like this bottom trend line here. You're looking at like 143, but if it breaks down and starts riding this line here into the 130s, I mean, yeah, technically we can come down to about 128 potentially, which if this is the V bounce over time, then this again is from the bottom potentially. 108, 109, 110. And this is the support trend line here across the bottom. So if the stock does break We want to see it hold this about 127-ish, 126 to 128 kind of moving forward over the next couple of weeks. So we'll keep an eye on it. But again, I know this is one that's pretty popular. I know a lot of you feel the way I do. You're seeing the numbers growing. You think FUBO is going to be big over the next, 3 years, 5 years from now. So again, as news hits or as I see something in the technicals, I'll jump on. I'll do an update for everybody. FUBO is one I don't mind talking about because they've been delivering pretty well. So usually it's been nothing but good news, minus the litigation part, of course. But so here we close out the day. RSI drops sub middle of the road here. Even if you draw a trend line there with the RSI, you can see it technically broke down below it. So that's why we may continue to sell off 138. And I know we were looking, yeah, here if we come down to this trend line, yeah, that'd be like the low 140s there. So maybe we can see a drop down to there. Flash break to the bottom Bollinger Band, 138. It's possible. Technically on this drop, we did just drop below the 50 and 200-day moving average. So that is technically a bearish sign. MACD very close. Again, could come down a little bit and then bounce, not necessarily cross to the downside, right? But as we know, when it does happen, stock sells off. So we'll have to wait and see over the next day or two how that MACD performs. Over the weekly, RSI closed basically middle of the road, 48. You can see we climbed up, rejected off of that 50-day moving average, 183. We dropped down, not necessarily a bear hammer, and mid Bollinger Band 1.5 on the dot, which is exactly where the stock stopped, which was exactly off of this support trend line as well. So again, for all we know, we might, just flatten out here and then start to climb back up. We might not necessarily break down, as a lot of people may be expecting. So we'll see. Only time will tell. But let's check the pivot points real quick. I'll let you go. So we can see 147 support level here, which we recently bounced off of nicely. So we'll see also if we break 1.5, do we bounce at 147? Only time will tell. And on the daily here, we have a pivot point 166, which obviously we broke through. And now 145. All right, so we have some action here between 145, 147. And hopefully if it does pull back just a few cents, again, it doesn't cause the MACD to cross to the downside. Of course, that would suck and really accelerate a further sell-off. But like we always say, if we think it's undervalued or a decent buy at around 1.5, if they bring it down to, 120, 110 again, if you have cash on hand, like we say, if you liked it at 1.5, you should love it down at 110. So again, until the company comes out and says all of a sudden, like, oh crap, no one's interested in FUBO anymore, or oh, revenue missed the mark by 30% or something, right? Until we get something hugely negative like that, in my opinion, I like it. But that's pretty much it. I'll end it there. Once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop it down in the comments section. I am very quick to reply. Thumbs up, algorithm, right? Helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is the handshake agreement. That is how you help me, help you. You all have been so awesome and so supportive. I was looking personally to hit a year-end goal of 5,000 when we were at like 33, 3,500 not too long ago. Then this month specifically, well, I know it's November 1st, but October as a month overall was just phenomenal for the channel. We had multiple videos seeing over 2,000 views, which for us is pretty big. And that brought in a lot of new eyes, a lot of new subscribers. And, I update you guys basically on like every 100 subs that we hit. And we hit 3,800, just a couple of weeks ago, earlier in the month. And then 3,900. And then, 3 days later, I posted 4,000. And now today I wake up, we're above 4,100. So we're really breaking through these milestones. 5,000 definitely is going to be hit. And it's all because of you. So I really do appreciate that. It really means a lot to me. I want you to know that. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I do understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, and they are very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time. Have a good weekend.